My mother's name, I said her name was Martha Mayanna Tucker, and so actually her maiden name was Griffin, but she married Ned Tucker, who was my father. And my father became a minister later, and he was so compassionate and so passionate about the sick. So he was a missionary. He worked 2 hospitals, Lakeside in Chinatown, and the one that he loved so much was Schwab Rehabilitation Center. And even when he lost his leg, he got on the bus and still went to minister to those people. So my parents were great parents, and I believe that they did the best they could for me. My dad didn't have but a 6th grade education, and my mom only went to high school. She went to McKinley High School, actually, and she only went to her junior year. But they just sacrificed everything for me. My grandmother. I'm named for my grandmother, Mattie Griffin. She insisted that all her children be in music, and they were. They were. And she didn't have the funds, but in those days you could go to the Park District. And they were trained there at Union Park, right there on the corner of Ashland and Washington. And the music program was just absolutely fantastic because they did little operettas and things like that. And then they took lessons from a family friend. Her name was Goldie P. Rhodes, who was my first piano teacher. I was 4 years old when I started. My mother said I was a very strange child because I didn't want to go out to play. All I wanted to do was play the piano. I was not a happy camper. I went to a Jewish school. It was Marshall High School back in the late 40s, early 50s, okay? And I was the only black student in all my classes for 4 years, except orchestra. I played violin. And there were 2 other girls who, one played cello and one played the bass viol. And those were the only friends I had. And that was very difficult for me.
Especially being an only child.
Being an only child, absolutely. Now, for me, how I got to DePaul is a blessing because I asked 2 of the members of the orchestra, who is your piano teacher? I never heard young people play like that. They played concertos and things. I'd never been exposed. So they said, our teacher's name is Rose Clouden, and she is a professor at DePaul University. So they said, you have to audition. So I did. And she took me. So I didn't even have to take an entrance exam. My church, I played for my church since I was 8 years old. By the time I was 12, I was playing the Messiah for the choir. And so I had a background that was just unbelievable. See, gospel music had not really come forth at that time. So we only sang spirituals, hymns, and anthems. And that's what I played. So I read music, see, and I had a good ear.
Did you know that you had this ability inside you, all along?
That never occurred to me. I was just having a good time doing what I was doing. And I am so convinced from the beginning of time, when God said, let there be, that he knew that his child would have this gift, because he gave it to me. He gave me this gift. And I give it back to him. I really do. And I always have. I serve him. I had a very hard time when I went to Whitney Young, and I can say this now. I really was not wanted there because I did not have high school experience. So when I applied, and Mr. Dawson wrote me a letter and said, I need to see you in your workplace. I said, I don't have a workplace in a school because I had small children. although I had formed a music workshop at Victor Herbert. It was great. That's another story. But I told him, I am giving a concert at a church. It's Canaan Methodist Church here in Maywood. And I told him when, and when it would be. And I said, because my choir is my church choir, okay? That's where I really, work with a choir, a concert choir at that. And so I didn't think anything of it. We gave the concert. It was great. And when we went downstairs for the reception, someone tapped me on the shoulder. It was Mr. Dawson. He always had back trouble. I don't know if anybody knew that, but I did. And he said it was killing him. And he said, but after I heard this concert, I feel so much better, and I'll see you at Whitney Young tomorrow. So I went to Whitney Young, and my friend had said, okay, you need to know a few things. Okay, so what's going to be so different about you that's going to make a difference at Whitney Young from any other high school, blah, blah, blah. So I had all of this information ready. So when he saw me, he said, oh, I'm so glad to see you. Let me take you around. So he showed me the building, showed me the choral room, and then he told me that I could not have the mixed choir. I said, good. I have a mixed choir at church, so I would rather have the girls. I really wanted you, because that was a challenge for me. Girls' chorus is the most difficult chorus to teach, because, see, in a regular choir, you have soprano, you have bass, then you have alto and tenor, and it's very specific. But with the girls' chorus, you have soprano, you have alto, but you have those inner parts that are very difficult to teach. That's why whenever I taught you, I never started with the soprano. I started with the second sopranos and the first altos, okay? Because the others would fall in line very easily. It's a very difficult, but it wasn't to me, but it is. It's difficult because you have to really be able to hear those inner parts, and they have to be balanced, So that's how I got the girls' chorus, because I really wanted the girls' chorus. I think one of them said to me once, you're not my mother. I said, yes, I am. I'm the only one that you have right here. And so I was everybody's mother.
I'm Latricia Riley. I was in girls' chorus from 1981 to 1983.
What was your fondest memory of Mattie Robertson?
Well, my fondest memory of her was just her straightforwardness. I love to tell the story how when I first came to her class, I had, say, 14 years of choir experience behind me, black church choir, of course, and I was used to carrying a section. And so I belted out my first note. She stopped playing and she said, who is that? You're singing too loud. That's my fondest memory, and I'll love her forever.
I'm Eliora Bryant. A lot of people call me Denise or Nene when we were in high school. And I was in girls' chorus from 76, I think, through 80. And Mattie Robertson, that woman just would blow me off my feet, because she's just a dynamic black woman. She was strong. She was very passionate about music, and she made me feel that way. We had a great time. We always felt the alto section was the best section of the choir.
Second soprano.
And one of my fondest memories, though, is our trip to St. Louis. That was the first time I had ever gone out of town with the choir singing, so I felt very honored, and just to know I was there with my sisters with the girls' chorus just made me feel that much more special, because I always grew up, I was the only child growing up, and being in that choir just was something that was more than maybe just the usual church choir to me. And Mattie Robertson, we also knew her from my parents' church, and that just kind of gave us an extra special connection and a special love for her. And I'll never forget her, and I'm glad I had a chance to see her on this evening. I hadn't seen her for a while, because she just continues to demonstrate a wonderful, powerful Christian woman that just believes in certain things and stands on every one of those beliefs firmly.
I always said, when I cease to be a lady, you can cease to be a lady, but right now you will be a lady. And I didn't have to really do too much about it, because this is what I found. At the beginning of the year, or your tenure with me, you were one way. But by the time you got to the next year, you were almost looking like me. You dressed differently. Your hair was beautiful. You know what I'm saying? You changed. And I think that's a part of it. I don't want anybody to actually, just be me, but be a lady. Now, where I got it from, my grandmother. She looked like she came out of a bandbox every day. And I always said I wanted to be like her. And she would, if she had on a yellow dress, she had on yellow shoes, a yellow purse, a yellow hat, And I just wanted to be like my grandmother. And it was just, I was really blessed that, now my mom and dad, they had very menial jobs. They had factory jobs. They had no education. But they took good care of me. And honestly, when I was a young teenager, I didn't have but a couple of dresses, because we would go to the store downtown and put $2 down, on an outfit so that we could get it out by Christmas or by Easter. That was it for me. But my aunt worked for some people who had a daughter who would not wear her Marshall Fields clothes. I got every one of them. They still had tags on them. I was really blessed. But then, when I became an adult, got a job, I was able to do what I wanted to do. And that's just the way I do it for the kids. I don't do it just for me. And it takes work to do that. But I always made sure I had everything ready the night before so that I could get out of the house and get to work on time. And you never know as a teacher when you're teaching how you're affecting children. But one day on my birthday, I don't know if you heard about that or not, there were about 20 girls who showed up at my church. Well, at that time, we were having trouble like all churches. Not a lot of people. And I said, oh, how nice, a family reunion. Came in to, try, fill up some of these empty seats. And I had no idea what was going on. At the end of service, which ended early to me, and I couldn't figure out why this was happening, and the pastor said, we have a presentation to make. Well, it didn't dawn on it. We always have presentations. People will bring their little chart, their little plaques and stuff. He'll read them, and, everybody clap, whatever. But they came up to the front, and I couldn't figure that out until I saw Janelle and Teresa. And I hollered out, those are my girls! And everybody started laughing because they had kept it a secret. And they came there to honor me on my birthday. And they said so many wonderful things about me. They gave me a big chart. I should have given you that. And they gave me flowers, and they had a reception for everybody after service down there. It was the most wonderful experience. You guys were my life, okay? I loved you. And for children, I get very emotional about that. I see you as a youngster 20 years from now, and I have to be sure that I have done everything I can do to expose you to as much as I can expose you to, so that you can make choices, because to me, that's the philosophy of education, actually, is exposing children to as many disciplines as we can give you. I'm blessed to have had the life that I've had, and it hasn't been a helter-skelter life. I've had a very consistent life, especially with my church and working in my church. I'm grateful to my church for the background that I have, that they let me be what I could be there, because it did really change my life. I was able to get a good job because of the skill that I have and the gift that God gave me.